The young and the restless spoilers shock. Genoa City is on the brink of seismic change. Whispers have spread that Traci Abbott and her sister Ashley Abbott are preparing to return to town, and for one woman in particular, the news cuts deeper than anyone could have anticipated. Phyllis Summers, once the firebrand of Abbott Communications and a social force in every room she entered, has been teetering on the edge of collapse ever since her harrowing ordeal as a hostage alongside Sharon Newman at the hands of Martin Laurent. Now, as Genoa City braces for the reappearance of two of its most indomitable figures, it becomes painfully clear that Phyllis is not okay, and that the ghosts of her past are poised to engulf her once more. From the moment the Abbott sisters' homecoming was confirmed, Phyllis's world tilted on its axis. Traci's razor-sharp wit and Ashley's unwavering moral compass have long represented stability and strength, qualities Phyllis once possessed in abundance. But the trauma of nearly losing her life, combined with the professional blow of being ousted from Abbott Communications by Billy Abbott, has left her a shadow of her former self. What should have been a triumphant reunion of family and power has instead become a mirror reflecting everything Phyllis has lost and everything she fears she might never reclaim. The fissures in Phyllis's psyche first became glaringly apparent at Crimson Lights, where she met Amanda Sinclair under the pretense of discussing their latest intelligence-gathering efforts on Aristotle Dumas. The cafe's warm lights and familiar aromas normally soothe Phyllis's nerves, but this evening was different. As she sipped her latte, her gaze darted nervously toward the door each time it opened. The announcement that Traci and Ashley had confirmed their arrival via Amanda's secure channels should have been a moment of relief. After all, Phyllis and the Abbotts share a bloodline, however fractured. Instead, it triggered a surge of dread so acute that her hands trembled under the rim of her cup. In the hush between sips, Phyllis's mind replayed the brutal memories of Martin Laurent's hostage hold, the icy glare in his eyes, the distant wail of police sirens outside the warehouse where she and Sharon had been trapped, the gut-wrenching realization that her own life had been bargaining material. Though that nightmare episode ended with her rescue, it did not end the psychic wounds. In the days that followed, Phyllis became increasingly withdrawn, haunted by insomnia and sudden flashbacks that sent her heart racing at the slightest provocation. When Billy delivered the final blow, stripping her of any role at Abbott Communications and handing her once prized corner office to Sally Spectra, Phyllis's fragile equilibrium shattered completely. Billy's decision was not merely a professional dismissal, it was for Phyllis a public repudiation of everything she had built. She had poured her intellect and ambition into Abbott Communications, steering the company through turbulent boardroom battles and rival takeovers. To be cast aside in favor of Sally, a newcomer with charm but little pedigree, felt like a personal betrayal of the highest order. It was as if every victory she had ever earned had been swept away in one indifferent stroke. In the aftermath, Phyllis's reputation was questioned, her judgment doubted, and her confidence withered like flowers in a drought. When Sally and Billy strolled into Crimson Lights that night, laughing easily, oblivious to the storm brewing between them, Phyllis's restraint snapped. The sight of Billy's smug grin and Sally's carefree banter felt like salt thrown into an open wound. Phyllis's chair scraped against the hardwood floor as she rose, eyes blazing. The latte she had just set down trembled and spilled across the table. A hush descended over the cafe as patrons watched her stride toward the pair. Amanda, seated beside her, reached out to steady her friend, concern etched on her face. But Phyllis would not be calmed. Her voice, usually velvety and controlled, boomed with raw anguish as she demanded an explanation for Billy's cruelty. Sally recoiled, clutching her purse, while Billy held up his hands in feigned innocence. In that moment, Phyllis was unleashed, a force of unfiltered emotion unleashing months of pent-up fear and pain. Yet as the commotion quieted and Phyllis retreated back to her seat, the damage had been done. Word of her outburst spread through Genoa City faster than wildfire, further damaging her already fragile standing. Social media buzzed with speculation. Was Phyllis unraveling? Could she withstand the return of Traci and Ashley, women whose very presence would remind her of everything she had lost? fans and insiders alike wondered if this was the beginning of a downward spiral from which she could never recover. Despite the chaos, a part of Phyllis clings to a sliver of hope. She knows that Traci's compassion, tempered by steel, and Ashley's steadfast loyalty could be the lifeline she so desperately needs. If only Phyllis can face her fear head-on, confront the memories she's tried to bury, and admit her vulnerabilities, the Abbot's return might catalyze her resurrection rather than her downfall. But that requires a courage she has not summoned in months, a willingness to step back into the light of family even as the shadows of her trauma threaten to pull her under. As Genoa City waits with bated breath for Traci Abbott and Ashley Abbott to arrive, Phyllis Summers stands at a crossroads. Beneath her glamorous facade and biting wit lies a woman fraying at the edges, caught between the past that haunts her and the future she longs to seize. Whether she will emerge from this crucible stronger and more resilient, or whether the return of her sisters will be the final blow that breaks her spirit, remains the greatest question of her tumultuous journey. One thing is certain. When the Abbott sisters step back into Genoa City, the reverberations will be felt not just in corporate boardrooms or social circles, but deep within the turbulent heart of Phyllis Summers herself. When Phyllis finally lays eyes on Traci Abbott, the tight knot in her chest will tighten even further, because for all her resentment toward Victor and Billy, it is the memory of Martin Lawrence's cold precision that still haunts her most. As the two women embrace, Phyllis's mid-sentence of warm congratulations may catch in her throat when the scent of Traci's perfume, or the precise way Traci tucks a stray lock of hair behind her ear, becomes indistinguishable from the warehouse lights that flickered above her and Sharon. Panic could flare in Phyllis's eyes before she forces a shaky smile, and in that moment, Traci's instincts will kick in. She may grasp Phyllis's hands, steady her, and demand that they sit for tea in the Abbott drawing room rather than forge ahead into an already electric gathering. Yet even as Traci tries to soothe her, the repercussions of Phyllis's earlier outburst at Crimson Lights will still be echoing in her mind. The slightest misstep, Traci innocently crossing her arms, or offering a genuine critique of Phyllis's recent decisions, could send Phyllis slipping back into that defensive posture she's tried desperately to escape. Should Sally Spector walk past once more, or should someone mention Billy's new board appointments, Phyllis might lose control entirely. She could lash out, hurling accusations at Traci, an accusation that Traci allowed Martin's scheme to happen by not reporting certain threats, or that Traci is too cozy with Victor to truly understand Phyllis's plight. In that charged heartbeat, Phyllis's voice could escalate from bitter to furious, forcing Traci to step back in shock. If Phyllis reacts with aggression, perhaps swiping at a champagne glass in her hand or snatching a hors d'oeuvre from a passing tray, she will instantly regret the spectacle she has created. The room would grow silent as champagne arcs through the air. Traci's face, a mixture of alarm and heartbreak, would be the last thing Phyllis sees before the full weight of shame crashes over her. Even if no physical violence ensues, the breach of decorum would be enough to shatter the fragile trust between the two women. Phyllis would find herself alone at Genoa City's most talked-about event, her reputation in tatters, forced to apologize not just to Traci but to an audience primed to see her unravel. But soap operas thrive on redemption arcs as much as they do on tragic falls. Should Phyllis catch her reflection in a nearby mirror, her mascara streaked, her hair disheveled, she may realize mid-meltdown how far she's drifted from the woman Traci once admired. In the stillness that follows the outburst, it is Traci who might pull her aside, whisper a reminder of Phyllis's strength, and even offer to help her seek professional support for her trauma. That gesture could be the hinge on which Phyllis's fate turns. Either she digs in, resentful and spiraling, or she allows herself a moment of vulnerability, accepting that the sisterhood she clings to can also be her salvation. Only then will viewers know whether Phyllis Summers will emerge from this encounter more determined and resilient, or whether the ghosts of her past will finally claim her. Phyllis's urge for vengeance is a tinderbox waiting for the smallest spark. And Billy and Sally are standing too close for comfort. Here are a few ways her grief and rage could tempt her toward actions that cross legal and moral lines. Corporate sabotage. Hacking into Abbott Communications. Phyllis already has the technical prowess. In a moment of desperation, she might plant a virus to corrupt financial records, framing Sally or Billy for embezzlement. Leaking confidential documents. She could pilfer proprietary files or salacious boardroom emails and leak them to the press, hoping to publicly disgrace her adversaries and force their ouster from the company. Personal retribution, stalking and intimidation. Fueled by resentment, she might follow Sally to her apartment, leave threatening notes, or tamper with her car, crossing from the gray area of workplace rivalry into outright criminal harassment. False accusations. Phyllis could fabricate evidence. An email thread, a doctored voicemail, accusing Billy or Sally of wrongdoing, then anonymously tip off law enforcement or regulatory bodies, hoping to immobilize them under investigation. Emotional blackmail, threatening exposure. If she uncovers an uncomfortable secret about Sally, perhaps a past indiscretion or a family scandal, Phyllis might threaten to go public unless Sally relinquishes her position or apologizes, teetering on extortion. Financial coercion. She could quietly siphon funds from a joint account or redirect campaign donations meant for Sally's charitable events into her own pocket, hoping the money trail points back to her rival. The trigger of Traci's return. Traci's calm presence and genuine concern for Phyllis might paradoxically deepen Phyllis's instability. Every warm word or sisterly embrace could flash her back to the terror of Martin's captivity, when a friend's kindness masked imminent danger. In such a moment of dissociation. Flight or fight response. A sudden hug from Traci might feel like a stranger's grab in the warehouse, provoking Phyllis to lash out physically, grabbing Traci's arm too tightly or pushing her away in panic. Impulsive escape. Overwhelmed, Phyllis might bolt from a social event, only later to find she's vandalized property or even broken into a colleague's office in her disoriented state. Risk of complete unraveling. Every time Phyllis buries her trauma rather than confronting it, she takes one step closer to the edge. A single late-night email sent to the wrong recipient, a hurried break-in caught on security cameras, or an irate voicemail left on Billy's phone could immortalize her moment of weakness and result in criminal charges. In short, yes, Phyllis is dangerously close to crossing lines she once would never have dreamed of touching. The combination of unprocessed PTSD from Martin's kidnapping, the sting of her professional exile, and the emotionally charged reunion with Traci could push her into illegal territory: hacking, stalking, extortion, even violent outbursts. Unless she finds a way to seek help and unburden herself, the very vendetta she believes will restore her power may become the downfall that permanently damages her career and her closest relationships.